Noah Dalton didn't expect to be elbow-deep in applesauce and toddler tears at the grocery store on a Tuesday morning. But here he was kneeling in front of a screaming little boy, while his own daughter clung to his pant leg with wide, worried eyes. "Daddy, is he okay?" 4-year-old Josie whispered, her small fingers gripping tighter. Noah gave his daughter a soft smile. "He's just having a hard moment, baby. Let's help him, yeah." The boy, no older than 3, was red-faced and hiccuping between sobs beside a knocked-over cereal display. A woman knelt beside him, clearly flustered, her dark brown hair falling in waves around her flushed cheeks. She looked like she was on the verge of tears herself. "Hey," Noah said gently, crouching beside her. "I've been there, let me help." She looked up, startled. Her green eyes met his, wide and glassy. He wanted the dinosaur mac and cheese, not the regular one, and then he saw a balloon by the bakery and everything just spiraled. "Sounds about right," Noah said, offering a soft chuckle. "Josie once cried for 20 minutes because I peeled her banana the wrong way." "I did not," Josie said, indignant. "You did," Noah teased, smoothing her curls. Then he turned back to the woman and her son. "May I?" She nodded hesitantly. Noah leaned toward the boy. "Hey, buddy, I'm Noah, that your mom?" The boy sniffed. "Yeah." "She looks like a superhero to me," Noah said seriously. "You know, only the coolest moms wear shoes like that. Wanna stand up and show her your dinosaur roar?" The boy blinked, then let out a weak but enthusiastic roar, through snot and tears. The woman laughed, a real one this time, and Noah stood, brushing off his jeans. "Thank you," she said, her voice still a little unsteady. "That was kind." He shrugged. "It's what we do. Single parents, we stick together." Her eyes shifted to Josie. "She's sweet." "She's my world," he said, lifting Josie into the cart. "What's his name?" "Jamie." "Well, Jamie's got a strong set of lungs. He'll be a lead singer one day." "I'm Tessa," she said, holding out a hand. Noah shook it. "Nice to meet you, Tessa." They stood there a beat longer than necessary, hands lingering just a second. Then Tessa looked away, brushing her hair behind her ear. "You okay now?" Noah asked her. "Yeah," she said. "I think I just..." She took a breath. "I haven't had a moment to breathe in weeks." He nodded. "Yes, I know that feeling." Before he could think better of it, he said, "There's a little coffee shop across the street. They have outdoor seating, so the kids can run around while we pretend we're actual adults. If you're up for it." Her eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Completely. I've got an hour before I have to get Josie to preschool. You need caffeine. I can tell." Her lips curved. "All right, coffee sounds like survival right now." They paid quickly and crossed to the cafe. Josie and Jamie bonded instantly over chocolate muffins and a shared hatred of broccoli. Tessa looked more settled now, her features less tight, her shoulders more relaxed. "I'm really glad you stopped," she said, watching the kids play near the low hedge. "Most people just stare when toddlers have meltdowns." "I've been stared at enough. Figured I'd stop the cycle." She smiled. "You said you're a single parent." "Yeah," he said. "Josie's mom left when she was 2. I've been raising her on my own since." "I'm sorry," she said softly. "It's all right. It's been tough, but she's worth it. What about you?" Tessa looked down at her coffee. "Her dad's not in the picture. We weren't married. He bailed when I was 7 months along." "That sucks." She nodded. "It does." Noah leaned back in his chair, still watching the kids. "You ever feel like you're barely keeping it together?" "Every day." "Yeah, same." They looked at each other, and for a second, something passed between them, something quiet and warm. Tessa looked away first, cheeks pink. "I should get Jamie home soon," she said, standing. "Yeah, I've got to drop Josie off. He hesitated, then said, Can I see you again? She blinked. You want to? I do. There was a long pause. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a small piece of paper, and scribbled something down. Here's my number. I don't usually do this, but, she smiled, I'd like to see you again too. As she walked away with Jamie, Noah watched her go, heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. He didn't know she was a millionaire. He didn't know she owned the entire block, including the very cafe they were sitting at. He just knew that for the first time in a long time, he was excited about someone. And Tessa, she couldn't stop smiling the whole walk home. The following week passed in a whirlwind of early mornings, spilled cereal, and playground negotiations. Noah hadn't expected to think about Tessa as often as he did, but her name kept floating to the front of his mind at odd moments when he found a crayon in his coat pocket, when he passed the bakery near the cafe, when Josie asked if they were going to see Jamie's mom again. On Thursday afternoon, as he cleaned peanut butter off the kitchen counter with one hand and balanced a grocery list in the other, his phone rang. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and answered. Hey, Tessa said, her voice tentative. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. Not at all, he said, instinctively smiling. I was just fighting a losing battle with the kitchen. She laughed quietly. I was wondering if you and Josie might want to come over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and chaos. He hesitated, glancing toward the living room where Josie was building a Lego fortress. You sure? I wouldn't ask if I wasn't, she said. Jamie's been asking about her nonstop. Then we'd love to. An hour later, Noah and Josie stood outside a modest brick townhouse on a quiet street nestled behind a row of maples. The porch light flickered gently above a pale blue door. Tessa opened it wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair tied up, her eyes bright. You made it, she said, stepping aside. Josie bounded in ahead of him, and Jamie greeted her with a loud cheer before dragging her toward a pile of toy dinosaurs. Noah stepped inside, taking in the warm scent of garlic and the low hum of music from the kitchen. Smells amazing, he said, slipping off his shoes. I had help, she said, nodding toward an older woman in the kitchen. That's Rosa. She watches Jamie sometimes when I have work stuff. Rosa turned and gave him a warm nod. Nice to meet you. You too, he said. Thanks for letting us crash your evening. You're not crashing, Tessa said, brushing past him with 2 bowls in her hands. You're saving me from eating 3-day-old leftovers again. They sat around the small table, the kids too busy whispering and giggling to actually eat more than a few bites. Tessa poured them each a glass of wine, and for a while, they chatted about the kids' school quirks, favorite bedtime books, the eternal mystery of how small humans could generate so much noise. But as the laughter died down and the kids retreated to the living room to build a pillow fort, the conversation shifted. What do you do? Noah asked, sipping his wine. Tessa looked down at her glass for a beat before answering. I run a few businesses, mostly real estate, but I dabble in some development projects. Like flipping houses. Sort of, she said. Buying properties, renovating, repurposing spaces. I try to build things that last. He raised a brow. That's impressive. It's exhausting, she said, but there was a glint in her eye. But I love it. It's a mess, but it's mine. He nodded. Get that. Used to work in construction before Josie came along. Now I do freelance remodeling when it can get the hours. Must be tough with a kid, she said softly. Yeah, but I make it work. We have a rhythm, and she's worth all of it. Tessa tilted her head. You always talk about her like she's your compass. She is, he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, the air between them shifting. Then she stood, gathering plates. Come on, I want to show you something." He followed her to a back room that looked like an office, though the walls were lined with sketches and blueprints instead of books. Several large boards leaned against the wall, marked with colored tabs and scribbled notes. "This is the next big project," she said, flipping on a desk lamp. "It's a community complex, affordable housing, childcare, job training programs. I bought the land last year." He blinked. "You're building this?" "With a team. I'm not superhuman," she said with a wry smile. "But it matters. These things, homes, stability, opportunity, they matter." He stepped closer, studying the plans. "You're not what I expected." She looked at him. "What did you expect?" "I don't know," he said, glancing at her. "You seem like someone who knows exactly where she's going. I'm still figuring out which way is forward." She laughed. "That's the nicest way anyone's called me intense." It wasn't a bad thing. I didn't take it that way. The sound of giggles echoed from the hallway, and Tessa turned toward the door. "We should probably make sure the house is still standing." They returned to the living room to find Jamie and Josie buried under couch cushions, shrieking with laughter. Rosa stood nearby, supervising with a knowing look. She gave Tessa a gentle nod before gathering her things and heading out with a quiet goodbye. Noah helped gather the chaos while Tessa handed out juice boxes. As the kids calmed down with a movie, he found himself standing beside her in the kitchen again, the soft glow of the under-cabinet lights casting a golden hue over the counter. "Thanks for tonight," he said. She leaned against the sink, arms crossed. "Thanks for coming." There was a pause. Then she said, "I know this is fast, and I don't want to complicate things, but I've been thinking about you." His breath caught. "Yeah. I don't know what this is yet," she added quickly. "But I like having you around, and Josie, too. It's been a long time since I let anyone into this part of my life." He stepped closer, their shoulders almost touching. "I feel the same." She looked up at him, eyes searching his face. "Do you want to go slow?" "I want to go real," he said, "whatever pace that takes." Her lips parted, eyes softening. Then Josie called from the other room. "Daddy, Jamie says aliens are real." He chuckled. "Duty calls." Tessa smiled, but her gaze lingered on him as he walked away. She hadn't told him everything, not yet. Not about the penthouse across town, not about the media company she quietly owned, not about the offers flooding her inbox every day. But she would. Soon. Tessa stood frozen on the rooftop terrace of the glass building towering over the city, the wind tugging gently at her blazer. Her assistant, Layla, had just finished walking her through the final logistics of the upcoming charity gala, seating charts, donor confirmations, security details. But Tessa's mind was elsewhere. She kept seeing Noah's face, the way he'd looked at her the night he left her house with Josie half asleep on his shoulder. That quiet, steady trust in his eyes. She hadn't meant to fall into something this real. She definitely hadn't meant for him to still not know who she really was. "You're distracted," Layla said, folding the event schedule and slipping it into her leather folder. "Is this about the guy?" Tessa didn't answer right away. She walked to the edge of the terrace, looking down at the blur of cars and movement below. "He thinks I live in that townhouse full time," she said. "He doesn't know I own the entire block." Layla raised a brow. "You're not obligated to give your entire financial portfolio to someone after 2 weeks." "No," Tessa said, "but I'm not just avoiding it, I'm hiding it." She turned around. "He's proud, he works so hard, and I'm terrified that once he knows, something's going to change." "Maybe," Layla said, "but if it does, that tells you something important." Tessa didn't respond. She didn't want to admit how much that scared her. Later that evening, as rain whispered against her office window, she made a decision. She picked up the phone. I want you to send 2 invitations, she said, her voice steady. One for Noah and Josie, to the gala. Layla didn't hesitate. Done. And send a car to pick them up. No logos, nothing flashy. When Friday came, Noah stood in front of his tiny bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of the single dark jacket he owned. Josie sat on the edge of the tub in a navy blue dress with white buttons, swinging her feet. Why do I have to wear tights? She asked, frowning down at her legs. Because we're going somewhere fancy, he said, smoothing her curls, and Tessa asked us to. A black sedan arrived exactly at 6. Josie gasped when she saw the inside soft leather seats, twinkling ceiling lights like stars. Noah hesitated before climbing in, something uneasy curling in his stomach. The car took them to the heart of the city, stopping in front of a grand building lit from the ground up. A red carpet stretched from the curb to the massive glass doors. People in gowns and tuxedos moved past velvet ropes, flashes of cameras lighting up the night. Noah stepped out slowly, holding Josie's hand tighter. A man in a navy suit greeted them at the door with a practiced smile. "Mr. Dalton, Miss Josie, this way, please." Inside, the space opened into a soaring atrium strung with lights and filled with the low hum of conversation and string music. Waiters passed with trays of champagne and sparkling juice. A table near the entrance displayed a tall silver sign, the Tessa Lang Foundation, Building Futures. Noah froze. Lang. He turned, scanning the crowd, then he saw her. Tessa stood near the stage in a sleek black gown, her hair up, a diamond bracelet glittering on her wrist. She was speaking with a man in a sharp gray suit, but when her eyes found Noah's, everything else dropped away. She crossed the floor toward him, heels silent on the marble tiles. He stared at her stunned. Lang. She stopped in front of him. I was going to tell you. He looked past her at the banners, the donors, the photographers. You run this. Yes, she said quietly. It's mine. He shook his head once slowly. Why didn't you say anything? Because, didn't want you to look at me like you're looking at me right now. I don't even know what I'm looking at. She glanced at Josie, who was watching them from beside a dessert table, then back at him. Let's go somewhere quieter. They stepped into a side hallway, the sounds of the gala fading behind them. Tessa turned to face him fully. I didn't lie, she said. I just let you believe I was someone else, someone simpler. He crossed his arms. You live in a townhouse. I own that townhouse. I own the strip mall behind it, and the coffee shop, and this building, but that doesn't change how I felt when I met you. He looked away, jaw tight. I wasn't trying to trap you, Noah. I've spent years around people who only see me for my bank account. You didn't. You never even asked what I did. Because I liked not knowing. She stepped closer. I like you and Josie. I wasn't expecting this, but I want to be honest now, all the way. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You should have told me sooner. I know. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I don't want your money, Tessa. I don't want to feel like I'm just some charity project. You're not. You're the one who gave me a moment of peace when I was completely falling apart. He met her eyes again. So what do we do now? We go back in, she said, her voice steady. We let Josie eat too many cookies, we dance, and if you want, we talk about it more, tomorrow or whenever you're ready. He looked at her for a long time, then nodded once. I'm not walking a red carpet. She smiled, then we'll sneak in the side door. They returned to the main room just as the music shifted. Josie ran to them with a cookie in each hand. Daddy, they have cupcakes that look like castles. Tessa bent down. Want to dance with me, Princess Josie? Josie nodded vigorously. As Tessa twirled Josie across the floor, Noah stood at the edge, watching. He still didn't know what this meant for them. For him. But something in his chest cracked open as he watched the two people he was starting to care about more than anything laugh under crystal chandeliers. Maybe it didn't matter how much she had. Maybe what mattered was what she gave, and what he felt. And what they could build together. The sound of laughter echoed through the high-ceilinged playroom inside the children's wing of the New Lang Community Center, 2 weeks after the gala. Josie and Jamie darted between a set of foam tunnels while Noah leaned against the doorway, trying to wrap his head around the last few days. He still wasn't sure how he'd gone from evenings of takeout and late-night Lego sessions to standing inside a state-of-the-art facility with his daughter, invited by the woman who had quietly built it all and who had. Tessa stepped beside him, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. She didn't speak right away, just watched the kids with a quiet expression he hadn't seen before. Focused, but softer, unarmored. "You've been quiet," she said after a moment. "I'm still catching up," Noah replied. "Last week, I was worried about paying for Josie's new shoes. Now I'm standing in a place with motion sensor sinks and a climbing wall." "I didn't bring you here to impress you," she said. "Then why?" "Because I wanted you to see it, not the building, the work, what care about. You showed me your world without hesitation. I didn't do the same." "You didn't owe me anything, Tessa." "That's not the point. I wanted to, I still want to." Noah folded his arms, watching Josie help Jamie up from the foam mat. "So what now?" Tessa looked over at him. "That depends. Are you still waiting for the other shoe to drop?" He laughed under his breath. "Maybe, but only because I've never had someone open a whole new world to me and not want something in return." "I want something," she said, and he turned to her. "I want dinners that don't involve juice boxes. I want mornings where don't have to pretend I'm fine. I want someone who looks at me and sees more than a name on a building. I want you." Noah's throat tightened. "You're asking me to live in a world I've never belonged to." "I'm asking you to live in a world we build together." He hesitated. "What if I mess it up?" She stepped closer, her voice low. "What if we don't?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for her hand, the kind of gesture that didn't need ceremony. Just choice. That night, after the kids were asleep in a pair of borrowed pajamas in a cozy guest suite upstairs staffed with an overnight caretaker, Tessa trusted implicitly Noah stood in the kitchen of her real home for the first time. It was warm, lived in. Books on the counter, a jacket tossed over the back of a chair. Not a showroom, a home. Tessa handed him a glass of wine and leaned against the island. "You seem more relaxed." "It's hard not to be. You've got heated floors," he said, then looked around. I pictured something colder, sharper. "You thought I lived in a glass tower." "I thought you lived in a place where people didn't forget to put the milk away." She laughed. "I do. I just happen to be the person who forgets." Noah took a sip and sat on one of the stools. "I keep thinking about Josie, about how different this could make her life." "It will," Tessa said, "and not just because you're with me, because you're doing the work. I'm just giving you more space to do it." "I don't want to be a project." "You're not," she said firmly. "You're a partner." The word landed like a stone in his chest. Solid, real. "I'm not used to being taken care of," he said. "Not like this." "Then let me be the first." She came around the counter, sat beside him, and rested her head on his shoulder. For a long time, they didn't speak. The city lights flickered beyond the windows, and somewhere in the background, a soft lullaby played from the kids' room monitor. "You know," Noah said eventually, voice low, "if you told me a month ago that I'd fall for a woman who owns more buildings than I can count, I'd have laughed in your face. And if you told me I'd fall for a man who fixes broken roofs with his own hands and somehow still makes time to memorize bedtime stories, I'd have said you were dreaming." He turned to her, So what do we do now? She smiled. We go forward together. 2 months later, the Lang Community Center held its grand opening. Noah stood beside Tessa on the small stage as she cut the ribbon, her hand in his. Josie and Jamie waved from the front row, flanked by volunteers who'd become like extended family. Reporters asked questions. Flashbulbs went off, but when Tessa turned to Noah, none of it mattered. I was thinking, she said, her voice just for him, maybe we take the kids away for the weekend. Somewhere quiet, just us. He leaned in. You mean somewhere with a hot tub and no Wi-Fi? She laughed. Exactly. He kissed her then in front of everyone, not because it was a spectacle, but because it was real, earned, right. And as the crowd cheered and the kids ran up to join them, Noah realized something he hadn't said yet. Later that night, with the kids asleep once more and the city humming outside their shared window, he whispered it into her hair. I love you. Tessa turned in his arms. I love you too. And this time there was no hesitation, no doubt. They'd built something real, together. And it was just the beginning. The last burst of late spring sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the lake house as Tessa stood in the kitchen, barefoot, a folded linen napkin in one hand and a puzzled frown on her face. Outside, the kids were racing across the lawn with Cora, the new sitter who'd come highly recommended by Rosa. Tessa could hear their laughter even through the glass, high and wild and free. But inside, things were too quiet. Noah, she called, stepping into the living room, her voice carrying through the open space. There was no answer. She walked past the fireplace, down the hallway toward the guest rooms. The house was warm and filled with soft shadows, and yet a strange, anticipatory silence hung in the air. She found him on the back deck, standing by the railing with his hands in his jacket pockets, staring out at the lake. He didn't turn when she stepped outside, but she saw the shift in his shoulders. He'd heard her. You've been out here a while, she said gently. He nodded, just thinking. She crossed to him, resting her hand on the weathered wood beside his. About. He looked over and she saw something new in his expression. Not hesitation, not doubt, just the weight of something important. I had a call this morning, he said, from a guy I used to work with in construction. He's starting a firm, small, local, nothing flashy, wants me to come on as a partner. Her eyes widened. That's amazing. It is, he said, but it's a big change. It means steady hours, bigger projects, less time freelancing, more time in meetings. It's everything I thought I couldn't have. A breeze tousled his hair as he exhaled hard, and I realized, I want it. I want more, not just for me, for Josie, for us. She reached for his hand, then take it. I only said yes on one condition. What's that? He turned fully toward her now, his hand still in hers. That I wouldn't be doing it alone. Her pulse fluttered. I know this started with chaos and tears in a grocery store, he said, voice low. And I didn't expect any of it. But you've changed everything for me, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. She swallowed. Noah. He pulled something from his pocket, a small, simple ring, a single diamond on a delicate gold band. I want to build a life with you that's ours. With juice boxes and blueprints and early mornings and late nights, with Josie and Jamie and burnt toast and too many stuffed animals on the bed. I love you, completely, and I want to marry you. Her breath caught. Are you serious? I've never been more sure of anything. Tessa's eyes filled, but she nodded even before the tears spilled. Yes, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, pulling him in. Their kiss was soft and sure, and when they pulled apart, she laughed through her tears. You really proposed to me in bare feet on a deck with my hair a mess. You've never looked more perfect. Inside, Jamie and Josie burst through the doors, Cora following with a knowing smile. Mommy, Daddy, Josie shouted, skidding to a stop. Why are you crying? Tessa knelt down, still glowing, because Noah just asked me to marry him. And you said yes, Jamie asked. I did. Josie squealed and threw herself at Noah's legs. Does this mean we have a real family now? He knelt and gathered her into a hug. We always were, baby. This just makes it official. In the weeks that followed, things moved quickly but naturally. The construction partnership finalized, and Noah found himself with steady income and office space for the first time in years. Tessa helped him design the company's branding, nothing flashy, just clean and strong and his. They kept their lives grounded, despite the luxury that surrounded them. The townhouse remained their home base, the lake house their shared escape. They married in the backyard of the Lang Community Center, under a canopy of white flowers and string lights. Josie and Jamie walked down the aisle hand in hand, scattering petals and grinning like they were in on the best secret. Cora held their hands afterward, letting them run wild on the grass while the adults toasted. During the reception, Rosa pulled Tessa aside, her eyes glistening. You chose someone with heart, she said. Tessa smiled. He chose me too. Later that night, after everyone had gone and the kids had fallen asleep in a tangle of tulle and frosting, Noah carried Tessa across the threshold of the lake house, laughing as she protested the tradition. You're ridiculous, she whispered. I'm yours, he whispered back. They stood in the middle of the living room, the moonlight casting soft silver across the hardwood floor. You know, she said, tracing her fingers along his collar, I thought I had everything before I met you. And now I have everything that matters. He kissed her slowly, reverently, like he had all the time in the world, because now he did. They fell asleep that night wrapped around each other, the windows open, the sound of the lake lapping gently against the shore below. And in the morning, when sunlight warmed the sheets, and the kids padded sleepily into their room, climbing between them with giggles and tangled hair, Noah looked at the life they'd built and knew one thing with absolute certainty. He'd never have to imagine what happiness looked like again. He was living it.